According to the Media Research Center, the David Duke unsolicited endorsement of Donald Trump that got 6 times more coverage, network coverage, than Mateen's support of Hillary Clinton. Now, if you want more proof that the mainstream media is utterly biased, abusively biased against Donald Trump, we have that too. Another study from the Media Research Center compares yesterday's coverage of Hillary Clinton's latest email scandal to the days-old controversy over Trump's Second Amendment comments. Now, MRC, again, they crunched the numbers. What do they find? That the big 3 networks, ABC, CBS, and NBC, quote, throughout all of their news programs, both morning and evening, well, they gave the email story, well, a total of 6 minutes, 59 seconds. In stark contrast, well, they dragged out Trump's Second Amendment people comment with a whopping 25 minutes and 54 seconds of coverage. Remember, that's day 2 of that story. And that's not all. A brand new Time magazine cover goes off a drawing of Donald Trump's face melting, and the caption says, meltdown. Of course, that pales in comparison to one New York Daily News cover, which shows Trump wearing evil clown makeup, and another cover suggesting that Donald Trump is the, quote, Antichrist. And last night, right here on this program, GOP vice presidential nominee Mike Pence, he summed it up best when he said that he and his running mate are running up against this.
The father of the terrorist who took 49 lives in Orlando attended a Hillary Clinton rally, was on television for more than an hour, said later to the press that he was there because he thought Hillary Clinton was, quote, good on national security, and that got a fraction of the attention that was paid to statements that Donald Trump made in support of the Second Amendment and in support of people that advocate for it. So it just shows you what we're up against. But as I said here in Dayton today, you know, it's 2 on 1. The media is going to continue to do half of Hillary's work for her.
Here with reaction, Fox News contributor, editor-in-chief of LifeZet.com, Laura Ingraham. Why are you smiling? You're smiling because I am, because it's so blatant. It's so abusively biased examples, and by the way, every one of those people that are shouted down or have their mics turned off are friends of mine.
Yeah, you know all of them. I do too. Sean, the Hillary media, as I call them, are really post-American. I say they're post-American because they don't really care, it turns out, whether America goes down the tubes. I mean, I really don't think they care, because if they cared, they would actually be covering the relevant stories of the day. And I'm not saying they wouldn't cover any of these other side issues. You know, Trump said this, Hillary said this. But on the main issues that are affecting the lives of most Americans, about America's economic decline, our foreign policy, great challenges in national security at the border, with these trade deals that we're being cheated on, they would actually be covering these stories. They would actually be suing in court to get these emails that Hillary Clinton, many of these emails she didn't turn over to congressional investigators. Has anyone ever asked, why is it that Judicial Watch has to always go after these documents?
That's such a good point.
Where's the New York Times? Where's CBS
Woodward
News?
and Bernstein, for crying out loud? Seriously. All right, you know, later on in this program, we have a really serious investigative topic we're doing, and that is, we've got the video. This was released first in 2014, to be clear, but Hillary Clinton defended a 41-year-old man that raped a 12-year-old girl, was interviewed about it in the 1980s, and she literally is acknowledging the man's guilt, laughing and bragging that she got him off on a technicality. Imagine for a second the same media, which is ignoring this. What if it was Trump?
Now, they would crucify him. And Sean, this is why the never-Trumpers, the Republicans who are throwing in with Hillary Clinton, really are so disappointing, because they know what's going on, and they are kidding themselves if they think that Rubio or Jeb or Kasich wouldn't have been put through the meat grinder of the left-wing media in a similar fashion. They did it to Romney. They did it to McCain.
Yeah, poor Mitt Romney.
They even did it to Bob Dole.
He had a binder of women's resumes who he wanted to hire. What a horrible human being.
Yeah, so they would have done it, Sean, to any of these people. And so Hillary Clinton literally put her own personal interest ahead of the nation's national security, and the media they do not care. They do not care.
Last night, we had you on the program. I'm discussing all these Republicans, arrogant, sanctimonious, self-righteous, sabotaging Trump, not supporting him. I have what I call the reasons I support Trump. Because the differences in what they are advocating are deep and profound. And, you know, I'll put it up on the screen. You know, Hillary's open borders. Donald Trump will build the wall. Donald Trump has stated again and again, we have a dilapidated military. You know, Donald Trump has said our education system is failing. We'll send it back to the states. I want to keep coal miners working. And I want America to be energy independent, not dependent on countries that hate our guts. He has promised that he thinks he can do that in 4 years. On this one issue of judges alone, originalists versus activist leftists that she'll put on, he's going to cut taxes. He wants to reduce the size of government. He said he'll repeal Obamacare. He can actually say the word radical Islam.
Oh, but he's not a conservative. He's not a conservative,
and he'll protect the Second Amendment. You know, and he says he's pro-life.
Can I chime in on the judges question? You know, you know I clerked for Justice Thomas, and I clerked on the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. This is an issue that we as conservatives claim that we care about. Like this, that the constitutional interpretation matters, statutory interpretation matters. Do these people who are sidelines cheerers for Hillary Clinton or actively now working with Hillary Clinton, do they understand that Title IX and Title VII and the Clean Air Act, all of these statutory, items, they can be read by the Supreme Court to validate all sorts of climate change legislation and to wipe away any good reforms or good issues, helpful issues that someone like Paul Ryan is in favor of. Do they understand that once they have the court, it's over? Do they not care? I mean, it's just
and all these arrogant people, and including Republicans that promised they'd support the winner, whatever decisions Hillary makes if she were ever elected president, they own it. I blame them as much as anybody else. Anyway,
Sean,
Laura?
this has been a clarifying moment for the Republican Party, very clarifying, and I think it had to happen, and Donald Trump has served a great service just in clarifying where everybody is.
I agree. Well said. All right, Laura, good to see you. Thank you.
Well, as we learned, the Obama administration was selling Americans a very different version of ISIS than the actual reality of the situation. Donald Trump has stirred up some controversy of his own, remarking 5 times in the past 24 hours that President Obama is the, quote, founder of ISIS. Here's just one of those occasions.
Last night you said the president was the founder of ISIS. I know what you meant. You meant that he created the vacuum, he lost the peace.
No, I meant he's the founder of ISIS. I do. He's the most valuable player. I give him the most valuable player award. I give her too, by the way.
But he's not sympathetic to them. He hates them. He's trying to kill them.
He was the founder.
All right, Democrats were quick to pounce on those comments as inappropriate, but can they really claim the moral high ground when they have made equally inflammatory comments in the past towards their political opponents, including Mr. Trump?
I think it's somewhat ironic to see some members of Congress wanting to make common cause with the hardliners in Iran. It's an unusual coalition.
I think the kinds of rhetoric that we've heard too often from Mr. Trump and others is ultimately helping to do ISIL's work.
He is becoming ISIS's best recruiter. They are going to people showing videos of Donald Trump insulting Islam and Muslims in order to recruit more radical jihadists.
All right, joining me now is Dr. Sebastian Gorka, author of Defeating Jihad and a distinguished chair of military theory at Marine Corps University. Larry Korb is a senior fellow with the Center for American Progress and a former assistant secretary of defense. Dr. Gorka, I'll start with you first. What do you believe that Donald Trump, to speak of his rhetoric first, we'll get to the Democrats in a second, but what do you think that Donald Trump meant when he said that President Obama is the founder of ISIS?
Well, I'm not his spokesman. I'm not part of his campaign, so let him talk for himself. But if he means that the Obama administration and Hillary Clinton facilitated the growth of ISIS into the most powerful jihadi insurgency the world has ever seen, he is absolutely right. Let's just look at the facts. In 2008, when this senator from Illinois became the president and afterwards appointed Hillary as his secretary in state, at that moment in time, ISIS didn't exist. Al-Qaeda in Iraq the forerunner of ISIS, was one regional franchise inside Iraq. When we withdrew our troops, when we started to cook the books on intelligence, as you hear from the CENTCOM analysts, then we facilitated the rise of ISIS. With these false red lines in Syria that meant nothing, all the things were put in place by this administration to help this former Al-Qaeda franchise become a trans-regional insurgency with more than 80,000 fighters today. That's fact.
All right, well, Larry, the media is really running with this. I mean, Donald Trump has had many occasions to either clarify that statement, but he's doubled, tripled, quadrupled down on calling President Obama the founder of ISIS and also making the same insinuation with Hillary Clinton. But they've started to use words like Donald Trump said that the president created ISIS. He didn't say that.
Well, I think if you take a look at what he said and compare it to his own statements, Dr. Gorka seemed to indicate that by us leaving Iraq in 2011 under the agreement that was signed before Obama came into office, and Maliki, the prime minister, refused to modify. Trump said we should leave in 2007. He also said we should leave in 2008. He said it again in 2011. So if that's what he's blaming ISIS, and if you go back to how did ISIS start, Zarqawi, who was really the founder of ISIS, was a nobody till Colin Powell went before the United Nations and glorified him and said he was associated with Saddam.
So what's your point? Are you saying but let's go back to the rhetoric that's being used, because the left is on the attack on Donald Trump for saying such a thing. Dr. Gorka made the case for why he could mean it the way he did. He explains it, but then you have the use of the same rhetoric on the left. Hillary Clinton, in addition to what you just heard from President Obama, Hillary Clinton at the Democratic debate in December said he is becoming ISIS's best recruiter. I mean, isn't that similar?
Well, I think if you take a look at what he said today, what he said yesterday, basically it's the same thing that Mr. Putin and the Ayatollah are saying. And in fact, the Ayatollah says we created ISIS, so you'd have Sunnis killing Shias, and that's why we have to do the things that we do. This rhetoric, I mean, and again, it contradicts things he himself has said. Never mind what the Democrats are saying. I can show you in 2007, he said we ought to get out. Said it again in 2008. Said it again in 2011. So if that's the problem, he is responsible for it.
And Dr. Gorka, you mentioned the CENTCOM report. We just led with that at the top of the hour. A lot of outrage learning that the American public was misled. The intelligence, the books were cooked, and we weren't really told the situation that was happening.
Yeah, it's outrageous. We didn't even have that during the Vietnam War. And I find it just as stunning that Mr. Korb, who engineered our withdrawal from Beirut, which sent the wrong message to the jihadis in the 80s.
Oh, I'm glad that Reagan did, let me tell you that.
Worked in a Reagan administration and is now attacking Colin Powell. Really? Where's the integrity in Washington? How about talking about the facts on the ground, please, Mr. Korb?
Well, I'm happy to talk about the facts on the ground. Zarqawi was nobody. Read what Colin Powell said before the UN. He claimed he was in league with Saddam, which he was not. Saddam was trying to kill him.
We've got to leave it there. Thanks to both of you for joining us, Dr. Gorka and Larry Korb.
Welcome back. Well, the mainstream media already under fire for being seemingly slanted in its coverage of the DNC.
I think the Democrats' first night may turn out to be more successful than the Republicans' last night. I thought it had a lot of charm and happiness.
Bernie Sanders received a standing ovation from the crowd at the DNC. actually bringing some of his followers to tears.
I mean, this place was packed until Bernie Sanders finished. The first two nights at the Republican convention, I mean, again, it's not that it's much of a comparison.
It was low rent. I'm sorry, comparatively, and I think I knew that this would happen. I was, it was kind of fun to cover, and it was an interesting thing happening last week in Cleveland, but I knew day one of the DNC that they would bring it together.
Well, Donald Trump calling them out, tweeting this. Funny, if you listen to Fox News, the Democrats did not have a good day. If you listen to the other two, they are fawning. What a difference. Well, here to react, Michael Graham of the Weekly Standard. Let's just begin with that last statement. She knew that the DNC would pull it together day one. Probably anything but that. Michael?
Look, I'm actually here in Philadelphia covering this convention. I ran campaigns before I fell into the evil media world with you, lured in. And this has been the biggest convention fiasco I've ever seen. I was actually in the media tent last night when the Bernie protesters walked off the floor of the convention. Think about that for a second. Walked off the floor. Right? If that happened in Cleveland, that would have been a huge story. And then they took over our media tent. We were hostages in the media tent while they had to sit in, and the police had to stop everyone from entering and leaving. I mean, the idea that Monday night was a success when the nominee of the party was booed repeatedly. She was booed Monday night. She was booed last night. She's going to be booed again tonight. How do you make this convention? I mean, other than like, a massive, disaster, an earthquake or a tornado coming through, this is so bad for a convention. To have the media celebrating it like some kind of win is jaw-dropping.
Well, all you have to do is go on Twitter and read what people outside on the streets are saying, because beyond just unifying, you talk about the logistics of the DNC and how disorganized it's been for the last couple of days. You've been there on the ground. What's the real story?
Well, I showed up Monday, finally working my way through the horrible logistics of getting in here through security after it was so convenient in Cleveland. Everything was easy. Whether you like the show or not, they had it set up well. Right. But every delegate I ran into had the same question. Where am I supposed to be? I don't know where to go. I could have made a fortune the first day just selling coffee to desperate people who needed a cup of coffee at 5 in the morning. They had nothing planned. We're in a tent with the media. Monday night, we got visited by NOAA. There was this huge storm. Our equipment, we had to rush and evacuate our equipment. And if you read the media tweets, they're complaining about how disorganized this is. They're talking about how you see 10, 12, 20 Bernie shirts for every one Hillary shirt, and yet you watch their coverage and it's, wow, they're doing a terrific job. Everyone's together. No, they are still not together.
Yeah, and not just fitting the logistics of the convention itself, but also those people supporting Bernie Sanders. They are not automatically switching over to Hillary Clinton, but to listen to some media, you would think they are.
Right? Oh, absolutely. And look, I think that in the end, people are going to eventually gravitate back towards either left or right. I think that's true with Republicans, when the people reluctant with Trump, and I think it's going to be true here. But the amount of passion here, it was interesting. You had a story a few minutes ago about Donald Trump at the VA event and people there chanting, "Lock her up." People on the floor of this convention on Monday were chanting about their party's nominee, "Lock her up." I've never seen anything like that at your home. This is the hometown team.
Well, Michael Graham, thank you for being with us and telling us the real story.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. And in honor of the Democrats, I left the word ISIS out of the entire conversation just to show some respect here.
All right, we'll be right back. Well, the so-called mothers of the movement who lost children to gun and police violence were given a voice at the DNC last night.
She knows that when a young black life is cut short, it's not just a loss. It's a personal loss. It's a national loss.
We're going to keep building a future where police officers and communities of color work together in mutual respect to keep children like Jordan safe.
She has a plan to divide that so often exists between law enforcement and the communities that they serve.
Hillary Clinton isn't afraid to say that Black lives matter.
It was an emotional part of the night, but no relatives of slain police officers were on the speaker's list. So what message does this send? Well, here to react, former Nashville police officer Vincent Hill. Sir, thanks for being with us so early.
Top of the morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, so there are a lot of people saying there were innocent lives, there have been innocent lives lost on both sides of this situation, and that there was a real missed opportunity here. What are your thoughts?
Well, clearly we missed an opportunity here. I mean, we had 10 police officers killed in the last couple of weeks. You look at Dallas, you look at Baton Rouge. So Sandra Bland's mother said a loss of a black life is a national loss. But here are men and women who have served their country, who have served their community, and no one is actually saying, what about their loss? That, to me, is a national loss.
Yeah, the number of police deaths from gunshots, from shooting deaths, has risen 72% from just the same time period compared to last year. What about maybe inviting some of those family members, some of those mothers, to join these mothers on stage?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, police are human as well. They have mothers, they have daughters, they have brothers, sisters. So why is the country not hearing their plight as well?
Democrats taking the stage the first 2 nights of the DNC.
How does this square with the things that you heard at the Republican convention? One is real, the other is made up.
Huge difference between people fighting for a level playing field and the people fighting to keep the system rigged.
Donald, did you hear me? Already great nation.
When women succeed, America succeeds.
America, we will rise. This is our history.
Because this right now is the greatest country on earth.
Well, tonight it is President Obama's turn, but have they already set the bar too high for Hillary?
Let's ask our political panel, former 2008 Clinton campaign advisor Jimmu Green and GOP strategist Philip Stutz. Thank you both for sticking around with us.
Morning. Good morning.
Philip, I'll start with you this time.
Sure.
So have they set the bar too high?
Well, they are very positive, and you know, you look at this as a reason that, you know, they're very positive in this convention. There's a reason that Bill Clinton says, you know, that Hillary's a change maker. It's because her unfavorability rating is hovering around 60%. She is not liked. She is not looked upon favorably by most of the American voters, and they are trying to switch the narrative. Trust me on this. The Clintons do not go outside in the morning and do not put clothes on in the morning unless they've taken a poll to see what the American people think. So this is poll tested, and that's why they did it.
Well, and Jimmu, clearly these speakers are really trying to humanize Hillary Clinton based off of what Philip just said. I mean, the polls say that she does struggle when it comes to likability, when it comes to trust. What does she have to do when she gets on that stage to make her come across more likable?
Well, I think that she has, one, acknowledged that she has work to do to build trust with voters, and I don't think we're going to see any different Hillary Clinton. That's not who she is. I think President Clinton laid out the case pretty well tonight when he talked about how much of a policy wonk she is, and anyone who knows her knows just how much she gets into the details. I'm not looking for, and I don't think the American people are looking for her to give a speech on the stage and be Martin Luther King. I think they're looking for someone who is going to be able to say, I know that we're facing very challenging times, but we are stronger together. And someone who is going to bring the country together versus divide us with hate and very, very violent rhetoric.
She has changed a little bit, though, Jimmu. I mean, remember how she restarted her campaign several times? She had the restart and then the restart. She seems to have gotten a little more personable. Well, but turning now to the Trump trail, where the Republican nominee spent 2 days campaigning in North Carolina.
Yeah, the Real Clear Politics average poll now showing a very tight race with Hillary only 2 points ahead. So how can he win in the key battleground states? I'll start with you, Philip. You look at North Carolina, for example. Look at that, 44-42.
Yeah, the battleground states are tightening. Think about this. Hillary Clinton has run almost 15,000 TV ads since she won the nomination. Donald Trump has run 0, and he's starting to win in some of these states. It's crazy. If the Trump campaign were actually able to put in some TV ads into these critical states and continue sort of traveling into them, giving speeches, laying out his agenda. Listen, yesterday he was talking about the VA in North Carolina, a very pro-military state with a lot of vets. He laid out I believe, a 10-point plan. He's got to keep doing that, and if he does that, he has the ability to sustain the lead and actually grow it.
Well, Jammu, Mitt Romney, he narrowly carried the state of North Carolina in the last presidential election, and then President Obama won the state in the election before that. How do you think that it will shake out?
I think Hillary has a good shot in North Carolina. I think that the conservative policies that have been really ripping that state apart, and you've got the NBA pulling out, are going to come back to bite them. But when it comes to Donald Trump and if he needs to run ads, why would he need to run ads? Because the media has this situation going where he sends out a tweet and it's like he, invented the wheel or something.
Wow.
How much money, free money, does he get because he does what the media wants, which is to create controversy. If it bleeds, it leads.
We report every time Elizabeth Warren sends out a tweet, we report on it.
And I think the Trump campaign realizes that they need the ground game.
You sound like the Republican primary candidates complaining right now. I mean, he won the primary. He won. I mean, he has done this the right way and his way, and the American voters have responded to it.
Who he doesn't even have to say anything of substance. I don't think Donald Trump will put out an ad. During the convention, even our network stopped coverage of the Democratic convention to give him an hour or so on Fox. Come on now.
Yeah.
This is not about what he needs to do in these battleground states. Hillary will run a strong ground game.
From Hillary Clinton and the amount of time that both Clintons have been in the public eye. She's had a long time to be in the media as well.
It's not the same.
We're going to have to leave it there, Jammu.
I'll take a bet on that, and I'm not a betting person.
All right,
Add it up,
Philip,
it doesn't equal up.
We'll leave it there. Thanks, you guys. Have a good day.